Lesson 2.5, If-Then Statements and Deductive Reasoning. What have we covered recently? Covered vertical angles, linear pairs, supplementary angles, and complementary angles. In other words, lots of math, lots of numbers and shapes. Well, we're going to change gears. We're going to do something else. We're going to start working on what we call logic. And we have an if-then statement. If it is raining, then the grass is wet. So here's the two parts. This is the hypothesis. Notice then and if are not part of the hypothesis or the conclusion. If it is raining, then the grass is wet, that's the conclusion. And we're just learning some vocabulary. There's nothing earth-shattering about that. So what we're doing is getting ready to set up some deductive reasoning. If we know something, then we can say something else. Does anyone have an example? And I usually get told, well, I've played Clue. I had a younger brother or sister, usually younger brother. Steal something, and I proved it. You know, I found the wrapper in your room, therefore I know you stole the cupcake, things like that. So if I find a wrapper in your room, then I know you stole the cupcake. If your breath smells like M&Ms, then I know you stole the candy. Things like that. So here's one to logic out. If you're late for school, and we're going to assume that's true. A lot of people are like, no, not necessarily. You won't get a detention. We're going to assume that. So if you're late for school, then you do get a detention. Should be a then in there. And if you get a detention, then your mother will not let you stay out late. So you're late for school, get a detention, of course, and your friends say, hey, you're going out Friday night. Can you stay out late? You should say no. Because you know that 1 happened, therefore 2 happened. And when 2 happens, 3 will happen. So 1 causes 2, and 2 causes 3. And you will not be going out. That's not too bad for most people, but here's where they get lost. I don't go out Friday night. I don't stay out late Friday nights. Does that mean I got a detention? Does that mean I showed up late? And the answer is not necessarily. Could be something else. This is the problem that people have with this. They get a little confused between the hypothesis and conclusion being true. So it could be another thing. So I'll give you some examples on this. It's called the law of detachment. Just says what I just went through. If the hypothesis is true, conclusion is true. So what can we say about these statements below? Hypothesis, 2 angles are vertical angles. Conclusion, they are congruent. Angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent. Angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent. Well, that's the conclusion. So, is the hypothesis true? Not necessarily, because we didn't say that the hypothesis is true. We said the conclusion's true. This causes lots of problems for people. So let's try one that actually works. 2 angles are vertical angles, hypothesis. They are congruent. Conclusion. Hypothesis is true. H is true. We're stating the hypothesis true. Then is conclusion true? Yes. Conclusion has to be true. More on this to come. Better to try problems and work it out. If you can say, well, not necessarily, then you know that they didn't give you the hypothesis being true. They gave you the conclusion being true, and you don't know what the hypothesis is based on that. This is another one called the Law of Syllogism. What a name. And it's what I just did before. 1 then 2, 2 then 3, then we know if 1 happens, 3 happens. So for example, if the daily high temperature is 32 degrees or less, that's 1. And the water in the pipe is going to be frozen. That's 2. If the water in the pipe is frozen, that's 2 again. And the pipe will break. And we know, or we're told, the temperature is 31 degrees Fahrenheit. We don't have to say the water in the pipe will freeze. We can just jump. Pipe will break. Which is not a lot of fun, I can tell you right now from personal experience. Tricky stuff. You need to definitely practice these problems. There's just the two types of problems. If the hypothesis is true, then the conclusion is true. If the conclusion is not true, the hypothesis may or may not be true. Or if the conclusion is true, the hypothesis may or may not be true. And then the other one, if A then B, if B then C, then A then C. You can just skip out the middleman. That's it. Good luck.